What's going on, guys? Second installment of the series. And this one here is talking about self mastery, the art of self mastery, and how to become a practitioner of self mastery as well. Now, first and foremost, self mastery, obviously it means being a master of self. And what being a master of self is having, hold up 1 second, having complete control emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. You have complete control at all times of yourself. And you're not truly a practitioner of self-mastery until you've mastered all four of those aspects of yourself. Um, you know, Mentally, you might be a really sharp dude. You know where you know what your mental strengths are. You know what your mental weaknesses are. Physically, your body's on point. You eat right. You look right. You smell right. But if you got a short fuse emotionally, well, then you're slacking. You know what I mean? You're not truly a practitioner of self mastery. So you have to control yourself at all times. Like I said, all four of those aspects. You need to know where you stand mentally. You need to know what your mental strengths are, what your mental weaknesses are, and try your best to enhance those strengths, enhance those weaknesses. And same goes for your emotional self, your emotional aspect of yourself. You need to know what your emotional fuses are. If you know that you're gonna go off if somebody does this, and that, you need to correct that. If you know you can make people feel a certain way and it's a positive emotion, well then you need to capitalize on that. You need to, enhance those skills about yourself, perfect them, and like I said, mentally, emotional, physical, and spiritual down the line. You need to do the same thing for each one of those aspects of yourself. And until you do that, it's going to be extremely hard for you to to achieve success and also maintain success. You can achieve success without having those, but 9 times out of 10, if you achieve a lot of money, but you're not mentally where you should be, you're not emotionally where you should be, you're not spiritually where you should be, you're not physically where you should be, well, then that success is going to be short-lived, even if you want to call it success. You might make $1 million today, but if you're not mentally where you're supposed to be, if you're not emotionally where you're supposed to be, that $1 million is going to be gone, in the blink of an eye. It might be 5 years, it might be 10, but it's not going to last unless you have 9 times out of 10. It's not going to last unless you're a practitioner of self-mastery. And also, pertaining to self-mastery, a lot of people ask me, how come you don't do this? How come you don't do that? One of the main reasons why I don't indulge in drugs and alcohol is because I am a practitioner of self-mastery. I do know I'm not a shot in the dark to anybody who likes to smoke weed, they like to drink, do whatever. But once you let those drugs master you, you're not a practitioner of self-mastery. You got something you letting something get you beat. If your emotions be getting the best of you, you're not a practitioner of self-mastery. If drugs get the best of you, you're not a practitioner of self-mastery. If you sit up by yourself and your thoughts get the best of you, you're not a practitioner of self-mastery. And like I said, just going into detail about the drugs, if you're constantly high and you don't even remember what it's like to be sober, I'm not going to speak on everybody because I know a lot of people, they smoke weed every day and they're highly successful and they're people I got a lot of respect for. But 9 times out of 10, if you're constantly drinking, constantly smoking, you're constantly popping pills, sipping lean, and you don't even remember what it's like to be sober anymore, your judgment's, obviously going to be clouded. Almost 9.9 times out of 10, not just 9 out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10. How can you be a practitioner of self-mastery if you're not yourself majority of the time? That doesn't even make any sense. How can you master yourself if you're not yourself? Drugs and alcohol alter your perception. They alter your mind. They have they alter the chemical balance in your brain. Your dopamine and all serotonin and all those other different hormones that go through your brain are altered by drugs and alcohol. So how can you possibly be a master of self if your self is altered? It's just like an oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense. So, try to sober yourself up. Of course, you can still participate in things that, smoking weed, getting high, that's fun. Drinking, that's fun. I understand all of that. I'm not saying I've never done any of that stuff because that would be a lie. But, I haven't, I've never been drunk in my life or anything like that. Everything has a time and a place, and it's all about moderation. When it comes to crunch time and it's business time, you want to have a sober, clear mind. And if you're one of those people where you're so far gone to where you don't feel right when you're sober, or you don't feel your best when you're sober, you got a problem. You know, and like I said, I'm not trying to diss nobody, none of my homies, or no females I know, but if you're one of those people, you got a problem, and it needs to be addressed. But this one here is just gonna be a short video. Like I said, you just got to be a master of yourself. You got to go down that. You got to have that checklist. Are you completely mastered in the department of emotions, your mental state, your physical state, your spiritual state? Do you know where you lie? Do you know your strengths and weaknesses for each one of those categories? Do you know how to capitalize on your strengths? Do you know how to correct your weaknesses to the best of your ability? If you said no to any of those things, then you got a lot of work to do. If you find yourself always high and drunk and shit, you waking up on Sunday mornings and Monday mornings, you can't remember what you did last night, and that's happening every damn weekend, it's, you know, we got a problem. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I might touch up on this video. I just want to make a quick one. And, you know, as always, I'm going to sit up there and show you guys some books that can help this. And this book right here is just the autobiography by Alex Haley of Malcolm X. Now, the reason I give you this is not a self-help book like the other books are, but this one right here, you know, Malcolm X is just, you know, I could speak about 45 minutes or plus about Malcolm X, but, you know, he was definitely a master of self. He was definitely a practitioner of self-mastery. So not only do you need to learn this so you know your history and you know one of the greatest black men that's ever walked this earth, but you also can learn a lot about how, you know, about his character and how he achieved what he achieved. And he was one of those guys I was just speaking negatively about. Always high, always drunk, didn't have his priorities straight, but he cleaned himself up. And you can learn about all this in this book. It's by Alex Haley. It's just called The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Another one, same thing applies for Nelson Mandela. This one's called Young Mandela. It's talking about his revolutionary years. By who's this by? David Smith. Pretty good book. Same thing. You know, he was a practitioner of self-mastery. You know, even when he was locked up for like 22 years, 23 years, he kept himself on track. This book right here, again, Think and Grow Rich, but this is by Dennis Kimbrough. It's not the original version by Napoleon Hill, but this one here is called A Black Choice. You know, specifically for black youth, males and females. So check that out. It's just as good as the first one. Last one right here, and I like to pick 3 or 4 books. You know, I got some more, but The Warrior Within is basically kind of like an autobiography of Bruce Lee, who, you know, and a lot of people don't know, he was a philosopher. He was a very spiritual guy, but he was also a master of himself physically, just to give you a physical aspect. You know, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, martial artists of all time. So you could definitely learn about where he was physically. So that's a physical one, and then the rest are emotional and spiritual, especially with Malcolm X. You know, you could definitely learn a lot of things spiritually about Malcolm X and his speeches and who he surrounded himself with. So check those books out. Appreciate you guys watching. This is the 2nd installment. I have some more videos coming soon. Appreciate y'all. Catch y'all next time.